Welcome to our podcast Below the Belt, wherever you guys are joining us from around the world. Welcome. Great to have each and every one of you with us today. Really good to have you guys. I see Vashti Magnot is already on YouTube. I see Beatrice Selby is here as well, guys. And it's my privilege to have each and every one of you. We ain't wasting no time today. As soon as you come onto the live broadcast of our podcast, share the live stream. Soon as you come on, share the live stream, folks. We want to hear from you. We want to see how. We want to see the comments. We want everything. Good to have you guys. Welcome to our international podcast, Below the Belt, and we are airing from the national capital city of Georgetown in Guyana. But we're so privileged that so many of you from around the world, like Erica Hooper, can join us today, guys. Share the live stream wherever you guys are joining the broadcast from. And today we're talking about foot in mouth Joe Hamilton, Pillory Joe, on the Teachers Isolation Day issue. And we're going to be joined very shortly by Natasha Singh Lewis, Member of Parliament, the Honorable, and also the Honorable Member of Parliament, Nima Flu Best. We're going to be joined by these two fantastic young ladies in just a bit. But guys, we always ask you, June Chase, Olivette, and all the others, Kevin Pierce and Michael Gittins, Denise Mitchell, how is the weather going where you guys are? And how are you feeling at your end as well? What are you guys having for lunch at your end? We hope all is well. Folks, let me be the first to say that I am a little under the weather. As I told you guys who would have joined us yesterday on the podcast, something is out there going around. Something is in the air out there. Is it Omicron? Is it Omicron? One wonders, do we have flu season here? When I was living in the US in November, very early November, took a run up for a couple of days to get some stuff done. I heard them talking about flu season and them being advised to get vaccinated, get their usual yearly flu shots. We don't have that here. Do we have flu season? I hear folks saying that, we have the flu on top of the coronavirus. So it's flurona. That's what they're calling it, the flu on top of the coronavirus, right? But, more and more people are coming down with something locally. And as I was coming into the studios today, I was just using a couple places that I was passing as a barometer. Now, I'm not familiar, and I say this, put an asterisk over this, with how Survival Supermarket, for instance, opens. But I was very surprised that I was passing Survival Supermarket at around 11 o'clock, and they were closed. I was quite surprised by that. And for instance, when you get to when you get to Mandela Avenue and Durban Street, there's a place there that sells barbecue. Always have a lot of people there for lunch during the course of the day. That place had about 2 or 3 persons. So I was using that as a barometer to say, and they didn't have as much traffic on the road too at that hour. What's happening? I feel the health authorities aren't telling us something. The health authorities aren't telling us something. They're telling we half and they're leaving out half. That being said, folks, how is the weather where you are? We know it's very cold in some places. My aunt and cousin recently returned to the US after vacationing here for Christmas. It's very, very cold in certain parts of the US, unless you're in places like Florida, of course. And we know in Canada, oh my father, folks send us photographs of Canada all the time. Snow upon snow. Guys, stay warm wherever you are. And it's been raining here on and off. Stay dry if you're in a climate like ours, where it's been raining on and off. It's 29 degrees outside in our national capital city of Georgetown. And according to weather.com, they're telling us there's a 32% chance that it's going to rain this afternoon. A 32% chance that it's going to rain. And guys, I always say here that I do not follow the Met Office here at all, the Meteorological Office. Because usually when they say it is going to rain, it's sun. When they say sun, it's going to rain. And following weather.com quite recently, I was pleasantly surprised. One of the afternoons when they were telling us that there's a good chance it's going to rain, I noticed whole afternoon it was sunshine. Whole afternoon it was bright sunshine. And then about 7 o'clock that night, whoosh, a big downpour. A big downpour. Folks, you see why I like weather.com? 99.999% of the time. They're always accurate. Always accurate. I love me some weather.com. So I follow there to see what the weather is going to be like. But I hope wherever you guys are joining us from around the world, that things are that even if it's cold, that you guys find a way to stay warm. Even if it's wet, that you guys find a way to stay dry, folks. And again, something is in the air outside. Too many people are falling. I spoke with my sister also on coming on just before we came on air, and she too has something. Something is out there. People aren't feeling well, and this government here, you know, based on our topic for today, are framing arguments in legal terms. People can't fall in sick, and you tell me, oh, you got a contract to come to work. Foot in mouth, Joe Hamilton. That's me trying to tell teachers, oh, legally you are supposed to be at work. Nonsense. You see your children in class coming down with COVID-19, fellow teachers coming down with COVID-19, and you must just turn up to work because you like work, because you like this government. Huh? That is where we are. So we're going to be talking about this and perhaps some other issues with our members of parliament, Natasha Singh Lewis and Nima Flew Best, in just a little bit. But it's good to see Margaret Nelson out there. Good to see Marcia Lovell out there. Marilyn. I have to scroll back. That's why the comments are going so fast. To see Marilyn's surname. Marlon Thomas, Marcia Lovell, Tasha Silat, Marsha Glasgow, Deborah Clark, Dion Fordyce. Good to see Marsha Glasgow. MP Flew Best, I can hear your audio coming through. I'd be grateful if you can mute for just a second until we bring you in. MP Flew Best, I wish I could.
Why are you on a show?
MP Flew Best, I can hear your audio coming through. Just mute at your end. We'd be very grateful. Thank you very much. We know sometimes how the young ones have us. You have to be home and do these programs all the same time. Folks, this is the COVID environment we are living in. This is the real COVID environment that we are living in. So why don't you take the opportunity as we begin our program today, talking about foot in mouth Joe Hamilton on the Teachers Isolation Day issue. Why don't you take the opportunity to share the live stream? And we want to see those emojis as well. We want to see those emojis as well. Folks, I was listening to an international broadcast quite recently as well. And part of what they were talking about is work in this COVID environment. And according to these guys internationally, we ain't going back to work as we know it, Don't let me fool myself. We are not going back to work as we know it. Derek Smith and Denise Mitchell, Dora David, Siobhan McDonald, Deborah Clark, and all the other fantastic folks. Deborah, good to see you, Deborah. Good to see you. Marlene DeYoung, rather. Audrey Ward and Dorrit David, Lisa Remy, Ingrid King. We're not going back to work as per normal. And we have such a tremendous opportunity here to remodel this whole concept of work and how we engage our students, even work in the formal environment in the public sector, right? Do folks really need to go and sit down for 8-9 hours per day? Or do we want more, do we want to work smarter as against working harder? Why can't I go in for 4 hours, do 4 hours hard work, and then I have the rest of the time for myself, maybe to isolate, maybe to what have you, right? And the folks are telling us too, all of these variants with us for a long time. So we have to be able to sit down and to think constructively and to think broadly how we're going to reapproach what we're doing, because something isn't working for us. Something is absolutely not working for us. Elizabeth Narine, good to see you there. Spartanburg, South Carolina is in the house. Eworth Anthony, good to see you, Eworth. Anthony Perry, Derek Smith, and Diane Fordyce. All you other fantastic folks, good to see you. We hope you're feeling well. And even if you're not feeling well, guys, look, I am ensuring I pass by supermarket coming into the studio, grab me some coconut water, grab some orange juice. I fight him back. Wherever this thing is in the air, I fight him back. They say you have to stay hydrated. Make sure you take lots of liquid, vitamin C and so forth. I fight him back. I ain't like, I got no bed giving up. I fight in tooth and nail. You understand me? If you carry me kicking and screaming. I want you to know that, Rona. You carry me kicking and screaming. And John, good to see you out there. Marsha Glasgow, Good to see you as well. Brent Mentor. Brent, thank you for all of your help. Brent, thank you for all of your help. Marlene DeYoung again, we see you. Marsha Glasgow, we see you. Is it Marlene DeYoung? All the DeYoungs here. Tony Noel. Tony Noel. Good to see you, Tony. Tony is a Guyanese activist in diaspora doing fantastic work on our behalf back home. Cheyenne Class, good to see you as well. Jillian, is it Cabby? Jillian Cabby, good to see you there, Jillian. Good to see you as well. And guys, it is my privilege, it is my tremendous privilege to have with us today the one and only Natasha Singh Lewis, the Member of Parliament, and the one and only Nima Flubes, Member of Parliament, as well, the Honorable. Folks, let's welcome our Members of Parliament, Natasha Singh Lewis and Nima Flubes, to our discussion today. Ladies, welcome.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Natasha. Welcome. Below the belt, who vex lose?
Good afternoon, Paula. That was Nima.
Oh, that was Nima. Apologies there. You guys hang so much together, you almost sounded like now. Almost sounded like now. How are things where you guys are today?
So, Shad, I am on the East Bank. It's nice and cool, a little bit of sun. And I like you, I am a little bit under the weather too. I am not sure what is going on, but we certainly need to know what is going on. It's really a nice Monday midday.
Mm-hmm. I can agree with you there. Fantastic weather on the outside. And you know, MP St. Louis, I was saying earlier on that we don't get a sense from authorities here when we have flu season. We know in this country flu is a normal thing, but we don't hear about the flu season and about getting vaccinated, getting your flu shots and so on. So vastly different. You know, we're a third world country for a reason. We're a third world country for a reason. Yep.
And third, on that note, I want to take you back a little bit to March, April 2020, when we first learned of the COVID-19 virus in Guyana and the first patient. We were asking people to boost up your immune system because you have to fight a virus. And so we told them about all the alternative medication and so on. And you don't hear that now. And in all earnest, I think we have been, I don't know what's the word to use. We have just gone lazy, careless. I'm not sure what has happened with our society.
Yep.
And listen, what we see happening in our society is a reflection of the leadership by this installed government. They don't care, and so the people are suffering.
Yep, and you know, some of the sights and scenes over the weekend tells us that we've become very lax. That Fusal, is it football competition at the sports hall? It was just one of those issues, one of those events. MP Flubes.
Yes.
Good afternoon. How are things at your end?
Natasha. Well, I'm in Mocha. It is nice and sunny. I have a lot of trees around me. I'm a bit under the weather too, but I'm thankful that I have great farmers in the community. So yesterday I was able to get my lemons, and I have to share some with you guys.
Thank you.
Pine.
I was about to say beams.
I was able to get some mangoes and my oranges, and I am keeping myself fully hydrated using all the local stuff. And yes, I'm enjoying some nice coconut water fresh from the tree as I go along. So that has been helping me to go through this very difficult time. And indeed, questions are to be answered and questions have to be asked. What really is going on here? We're not hearing the truth or what really is happening from the health sector, and it is very troubling. Very, very troubling.
Precisely. Nothing irregular out there, you know. Nothing irregular. And you know, Guyanese people at home who are listening to us, you can let us know in the comment section whether you're feeling well. You know, whether you have flu-like symptoms, what's happening at your end. Something is happening that these guys aren't telling us. And as per our discussion today, the theme of the discussion, foot in mouth, Joe Hamilton on the Teachers' Isolation Day. It was sad to me to hear this installed minister trying to justify teachers must be at school because of them having a legally binding contract. And we said earlier, you cannot watch as a human being your children, your students coming down sick, fellow teachers coming down sick, and you just go about as per normal. It is mind-boggling. It is mind-boggling. So I want to give listeners a sense of what Hamilton said recently, and then to get your interventions, both MPs. Natasha Singh Lewis and Nemo Flubes, on what he said. And I think these guys are really heartless. And they can come next month and say, we care. They can come next month and say, we care. Folks from around the world, take a listen to what this installed minister, Joe Hamilton, said yesterday about teachers being at school, the legality and all the other foolishness. Take a listen, and we can have some commentary on the other end.
Whether the call for an isolation day by the Guyana Teachers Union is lawful. The key facts are the Guyana Teachers Union, in a letter to teachers issued on the 8th of January 2022, issues a call and has taken a position to have an isolation day on Monday, January 10th, 2022, where there will be no formal face-to-face or virtual teaching. The GTU in its letter states that this action is based on the current spike in COVID-19 cases and reports of students, teachers, and support staff being tested positive. What are the key issues? There are two key issues to be determined. First, whether this isolation day can be considered a strike or from an industrial action. And secondly, the procedure to be followed by the GTU based on the position set out in its letter. A legal definition of strike. A strike is generally defined as a collective refusal by employees to work under the conditions required by employers. The Public Utilities Undertaking and Public Health Services Arbitration Act, Chapter 5401, defines a strike as the cessation of work by a body of persons employed, acting in a combination or concerted refusal or a refusal under a common understanding of any number of persons employed to continue to work for an employer in consequence of a dispute.
In the comment section,
done as a means of compelling their employer or any person or body of persons employed to aid other workmen in compelling their employer or any person or body of persons employed to accept or not to accept terms of conditions of or affecting employment. The Act applies to trade disputes in essential services. Section 12 of the Act prohibits strike by workers who are in essential services in connection with any trade dispute unless conditions under the Act are satisfied. Are teachers prohibited to strike? The schedule of Chapter 5401 defines essential services as including healthcare workers as set out in Clause 5 of the schedule to Chapter 5401. However, teachers are not classified as essential service workers under the Act. There is no prohibition in law regarding strike action by teachers, and they may exercise the freedom to strike set out in Article 147(2) of the Constitution. GTU called for an isolation day, while not being called a strike, can be deemed as a strike as it calls for teachers to stop work on Monday, 10th January 2022. What is the procedure for proposing industrial action? Any industrial action, including a strike or stoppage of work, taken by teachers will be governed by the collective labor agreement between GTU and the Ministry of Education. It is common labor practice that a period of notice be given to the employer before any industrial action is taken. Moreover, labor relations practice would require GTU to register its grievance with the Ministry of Education and enter a period of discourse before initiating any industrial action. It has been reported in the press by Demerara Waves, 8th of January 2022, that GTU has written to the Chief Education Officer, Dr. Marcel Hudson. However, there is no report of any formal discussions being undertaken between GTU and the Ministry of Education regarding the COVID-19 issue before the call for the isolation day was made by the GTU. The GTU, before initiating any industrial action, ought to seek the conciliation services of the Ministry of Labor. Section 4 of the Labor Act, Chapter 9801, sets out the powers of the minister in settling differences between an employer and employees. The minister is empowered to inquire into the causes and circumstances of the difference, take such steps as appear to be expedient to promote a settlement of the difference, and with the consent of both parties, refer the matter for settlement to an arbitration panel. Section 41C provides that the matter may also be referred to arbitration without the consent of the parties if the minister notifies the parties that continuance of the difference is likely to be gravely injurious to the national interests. What is the summarized position here? Teachers in Guyana ought to be properly advised that heeding the call of the GTU to participate in the isolation day may be considered as an unauthorized absence from work, abandonment of their students, and a gross dereliction of their duties. In this regard, the Ministry of Education will be under no lawful obligation to pay persons who are absent and abandon their post on Monday 10th, 2022. I would hope that all teachers who've listened to this broadcast recognize that going on a strike without legality and a framework of a strike would consequently ensure that you're not paid for the day or days that you have abandoned your post. Thank you very much, citizens, for listening to me.
Let me just be the first to say all that's bullshit. Bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. Pardon my French, ladies.
I honestly believe that Joseph Hamilton should be sanctioned for that statement. Why I say that? A right to health care is a basic human right for any human being.
Yep.
It's a basic human right. And now, what in essence they are saying to us is that the teachers' health and welfare should be taken to arbitration.
Exactly, and it's stupidness.
No, I don't know. Nima, if you can jump in
All
here,
because you're concerned about your health. Folks who listen to us around the world, the situation in Guyana is one where not only teachers and students, but teachers and students are coming down by the droves, by the dozens, by the hundreds with COVID-19. And this is the government who is finding a legal position to say you should be in school teaching. And if you don't go and teach and contract COVID, they're gonna subtract money from your salary. That's what Polari Joe telling us here.
You know,
Sharad, something else is going on. Let me bring this to your listeners' attention. GRA is suffering just like our teachers, our teaching profession. The police force is suffering just like our teachers. The army is suffering, but you don't hear them saying anything about what will happen to those workers, because I personally know a lot of GRA staff are at home in isolation. So why is it you have to single out the teachers to take them to arbitration?
All this installed cabal wants is the status quo to remain. Let us pretend all is well in this country and that we are legitimate government. That's all they want to know. Let's open schools and let's pretend that there's no COVID. Let's pretend students are not being infected. Let us pretend teachers are not being infected. And let us just go along our merry way. I was telling the audience as we came into the broadcast that as I was coming into the studio, I'm taking the what I saw on the outside as a barometer. And, for midday, Monday, Monday of all days, there is less traffic on the road. I saw Survival Supermarket close. I don't think they usually close at 11 o'clock. I saw a bar on that sells a lot of barbecue, an establishment rather, just on Durban and Mandela Avenue that sells a lot of barbecue there. About two people were standing in front of that place, and that place is usually have cars on both sides of the road waiting for lunch there. It's one of the popular places. I'm just using that to say something is happening locally, and whether this administration, this installed regime, wants to up its curfew time and all of that, something is happening, and they're not telling us what it is. Ladies,
You know, Sherrod,
go ahead, MP
I
Flubes.
so many things I want to say, but I'm going to try to put it very decent. The minister talked about key facts. What are the key facts? One, a lot of schools are not prepared for students. The students are not sitting how they ought to be 6 feet apart. It cannot be accommodated because no provisions was made for that. A lot of schools were not given cleaning agents. They simply sanitize the area. A lot of schools don't have a sanitization plan for during the course of the day. Now you're telling teachers to leave their families to go into an environment where basic sanitization is not in place. Basic. The cleaners are people who have to take a cloth, put bleach, and wipe those furniture at the end of the day. They have to take a broom to sweep. So obviously, those very cleaners and other staff in the school system will become affected. Now you're telling us that during a pandemic, you talk about arbitration and all of the laws say something gotta be totally
Paragraph
wrong
6, subsection 4.
with these things. Something wrong with them.
The meditation scatter.
They're not considering the children. And then the other question, how many of them really have children in the system that have to go through this? A lot of them don't. So they do not understand that. I can share my personal experience. I have a child at home who got developmental challenges. Do you think I would go and put my health at risk, just to come home to cause problem for my children? No, I cannot do that. I have to be wise, and I'm encouraging my colleagues. I stand with my colleagues today. You cannot put your health at risk. A lot of children went to school last week, and a lot of them home today because they come down with some flu, they come down with some headache. Only yesterday I received a call from someone right in my community that said her child was tested positive for COVID. And all the time the child was at home, okay, but the child went to school for 2 days and never felt good after the first 2 days. Now, who is to be blamed for that? And then the minister got a face to get up to say such nonsense. They do not take into consideration, they have not taken into consideration the health factor and what is happening out there to teachers as well as children. To my colleagues, you have to decide what is best for you. No minister telling you that you're losing a day pay to save yourself. If you go to school today and become infected, you die, they will send some flowers at your house if they remember. They might even send a sympathy card to you. Their teachers can't go into the classroom, and if you got children dying, they can't go into the classroom. So we have to be wise. Steps have to be taken to protect ourselves and our children. And I don't think the minister got any clue is it to be caring for children like the teachers. I could challenge them any day. They don't understand that. It's very, very sad.
And MP Flubes, what you're saying there is as much as the president of the Ghana Teachers Union is saying as well, Mr. Mark Light, because in response to what is happening, of course, the Teachers Union called for this day of isolation/isolation day. And I picked up Starbuck News, and this is what Starbuck News is reporting today. It says Light, in his call for support of the planned isolation day, said to teachers that their health is much more valuable than a one-day pay cut. You have to be alive to even enjoy your salary. The threat of a pay cut must not be heeded, he declared, as according to Starbuck News. So the president of the Ghana Teachers Union, Mark Light, is lockstep with what you're saying, MP Flubes.
You know, Sherrod, one of the things also people are forgetting, a lot of children are scared. People are not listening to them. Look at the Minister of Education, her statement. I want to know,
well, I'm coming
where
there.
do the children come from?
Go right ahead.
Where the children are coming from? Not the same community. Where are the schools located? Not in the community. What ignorance is she really saying? These people have not sat down to think about it. Where are the workers coming from? Not the same community. Something is wrong with these people. I think something is wrong with them. Seriously.
And they're going to come and try to convince people that they care. And the point that MP Flubes is raising, the Minister of Education, the installed Minister of Education, Prem Manichan, on a Facebook post has said that, they have found that the infections aren't being had in the school environment, but at the community level, that students are not being infected in schools, but at a community level. And as we said on our podcast just yesterday, as one person posited, the school is part of the community. The school does not operate in a vacuum. The school is part of the community. And what study is being done, what testing is being done, what back tracing is being done for the minister, the installed minister, to come to the conclusion that none of these students have contracted COVID in the school environment. I'm going to refer to something else the minister said shortly. These are the people who are going to want to come and say that they care. And as MP Flubes said, and as MP St. Louis said, lots of these ministers don't have children in the school system, do not have children in the school system. And I want viewers and listeners around the world to know this. First and foremost, thank you for those of you who now join the podcast Below the Belt. I'm yours truly, Sherry Duncan. I'm privileged to have with me today MPs Natasha St. Louis and MP Nima Flubes. And I invited them because I know Natasha St. Louis is a mother. She is a mother. Natasha's and MP Flubes is a mother, and she has kids in the system as well. And so outside of the political arena, they understand acutely what is happening. And both of them told us that, like me, they are under the weather. So we're not in a society where we're not feeling the pains that the people out there feeling. If y'all feeling bad, we're feeling it too. Since yesterday, I told folks I've been feeling under the weather, but I've been trying my best. I had to sleep till 10 this morning just to have the energy to do the podcast. So we ain't just talking. We're out there and we feel what the people in this country feeling. MPs.
Yes, one of the things I want to add and let people know, when you have to sit at a hospital with your child not being well and not being sure what's happening, it's not an easy task. When you have to go to a healthcare facility where you are not even certain that the treatment you will receive or the care you will receive is valuable, it's not something easy. What about the parents who cannot afford to go to a private hospital or private institution to seek proper medical care for the child? They will have to go to the public healthcare system, which is doing such a great job in ensuring that people die, as far as I'm concerned. To go and sit and wait to be served. So the best thing, what is wrong with having the children away from this environment in their homes and let them get the education until things are properly sorted out? Aren't we thinking about the future of these children?
And this
Aren't
has
we thinking about the
nothing,
families?
absolutely nothing to do with politics at this point. Natasha St. Louis and Nima Flubes, let me just share a personal experience I had. When my son Jean-Pierre was younger, when he has fever and he gets very hot, his entire body just shuts down and he starts to convulse. And it took me a while to get some advice. Soon as he starts getting hot, you need to bathe him with some cold water. Bathe him with some water, keep his body cold. Soon as he gets beyond a certain temperature, he would just start to shut down. And early on, as I was a single parent, raising Jean Pierre, I took him to Georgetown Hospital. He had an episode like that one evening where he was hot. He had the flu or something as a young child, and took him to Georgetown Hospital. And I remember, like Nima Flubes said, sitting there in that waiting area. This child had this episode, and you have to wait your turn because you're in the triage area. And of course, they deem other patients as being more critical and, of a more emergency nature. And how can I tell them that as a parent, I feel that my child should be treated first? And I sat there for almost 2 to 3 hours. And, I vowed a vow that night, sitting there, that I would never be in that position again. Because financially, I couldn't afford to go to a private hospital. But I vowed a vow. So I understand when you say that parents, it's not that we got a good healthcare system, could take off what's happening in this society. Something is up and they're not telling us. And when you are as a parent, you got to go for yourself, much more your children, at a clinic or a hospital to be treated anyhow, right? Or to be treated as you think you should not be treated. It's a different story, We ain't got millions as soon as we got a to fly to Miami on a chartered plane. You understand? We ain't got the kind of dough. We ain't rolling like that. But the authorities know exactly what is happening. 3 ministers of health, you got Ramasamy. Who else we have? We have Berry Ramsaran, he the administrator. And then you got Frank Anthony. 3 ministers of health in one system. 1 current, 2 former. In one healthcare system. And we know we're better. We in no place better. They know what is happening. But you know what? It's true to God. What Papa Jack about this say? Dinky, people will die. People will die. We can't close the country down forever. Who dead, dead. That's how they think. And then they come and tell me, we care. MPs.
Sharon, I want to address a particular issue here. Well, 2 issues. One is the fear factor, and 2 is the IT infrastructure in our country that allows our students to do homeschooling. Why is it this government is hell-bent on instilling fear by using the long arm of the law to threaten our people?
Yep.
Is that how you care? Is that what you mean? You care for all Guyanese?
It's a dictatorship.
Well, let's look at this fear factor from another perspective, because we're still in a pandemic, and in my opinion, it's getting worse because we have not taken measures to deal with this virus in its rightful way. We have children at home. We don't have perfect families. We have broken homes. And COVID has contributed a lot to that. Instead of embarking on a program, a psychosocial program for particularly our teenagers who are worried about being successful at tech, and the younger ones are still hoping to get good grades at the grade 6 exams. Why can't we put a system in place through the very school to address fear and anxiety among our students? Big people like me and you, Parad, big people like us, we have that level of anxiety when something goes wrong with a family member. Reality comes back to check. And none of us is immune to that.
Correct.
But instead of thinking like educated people or like sane people, develop a plan because you want your most important resource, your human resource, your people. You want them to live. You want them to have a healthy life so they can make meaningful contribution to your country development. You are threatening them. And what you're threatening them with? Their livelihood, their bread. That tells a lot about the policy, the thinking that goes into policies and actions at the leadership who has loved this country. Sharad, why is it that after 16 months, the Ministry of Education, the Indigenous Affairs Ministry, and local government are not able to collaborate to ensure that the IT infrastructure in each community, clusters of community, is decent enough for our children to stay home, isolate, but still carry on with school?
Correct.
Why is that?
Correct.
Where is the money going?
Billions upon billions. billions upon billions, and they were left with more than an adequate IT infrastructure to facilitate online
Exactly.
learning. And had they been doing their
Exactly.
policies correctly, you might have had one tablet per child as against, a pack of chung min and foolishness. You understand me? Billions upon billions of dollars. Logging wrong suitcases from community to community sharing out money. When you could have had people being issued with bank cards. So just go and swipe and you collect whatever. These guys mean to keep us back. It's not that we have to be
Yeah.
back as a third world country. They are determined to keep us dependent because they will always be
Yes,
needed as long as we're dependent. Right? And then you got the
that is so
Minister of
true.
Education, install prayer manager on the other side. And we referred to her early on in this statement that they know that the transmissions are not, the COVID transmissions not being done in the school environment, but the children are coming into the school environment from the community with COVID. And there's another
Yeah.
statement put out there by this installed Minister of Education, right? And this is what she said on social media just today. Several studies show that transmission rarely takes place in schools. And she attributes this to the CDC. I don't know why she couldn't just post the CDC thing itself. Let us be certain it's the CDC. Because if I got a chance to believe them or CDC, or believe them on CDC, I'm believing them at all. Several studies, we don't know the studies, we don't know the name of the studies, who conducted them, we don't have an opportunity to read the studies for ourselves. But we must just take she word because she said several studies show that transmission rarely takes place in schools. Right? All as a
Um,
justification why teachers and students should be in school learning and deading out.
Sharon,
Go right ahead.
I decided to go and check on CDC when I saw the post. And there's an article that pop up, Day of Isolation for Teachers and Students. It's K-12 schools. And that article was published on December 17, 2021. When you click on that article, you open it, there's a highlighted portion. I think that is where the minister probably went and grabbed her piece of information to share. But the last sentence in that article, it says transmission of COVID in schools depends on the local transmission rate. Right in the same article.
She ain't quoting that.
No,
She will not quote that.
as soon as I saw the post, because one of the things I've been doing as an educator, mother, a parliamentarian, everything, I follow a lot of guidelines that come out of what is happening when it comes to education and school, because I know that I'm in the education sector. And it is amazing when you see that people just go pick up an article and pull out a highlighted piece that looks real juicy, that and will cover you and use that to give people. But that's why I like education. That's why I want to encourage people to continue pursuing their education. Because when you can read for yourself, nobody can put the thing in your eye and tell you one thing when
Mm-hmm.
you know the article
Mm-hmm.
said another.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very important.
We big, but we ain't stupid, prayer. Prayer, we big, but we ain't stupid. All right, so here's this big statement. And, MP Fulbess, I want you to quote that part again. Here's the minister saying in one part of the article, she pulled this thing out from. Several studies show that transmission really takes place in the schools. And you read in the article at the bottom says what?
Transmission of COVID in schools depends on the local transmission rate.
Well, imagine if we've been overrun, what is schools gonna look like? If we at the local level being overrun by COVID-19, just yesterday was hundreds again testing positive for COVID-19, and that has been the case for the last 3, 4, 5 days. Hundreds of people on a daily basis testing for COVID-19. Right? Imagine if
It's
that's
not,
what's happening
you
at the
know,
local level. What happening in the schools?
that is why I said earlier that I'm wondering what is it that's going on with these people here. Where do the children come from? Where do the teachers come from? Where do the workers come from? Everybody live in the same community where the school is located. So I don't understand what ignorance you're telling people. A child could leave home normal, not have any symptoms or positive or anything, and go into the same school environment and reach a child who got all the symptoms and it could be transmitted. And even to that, you even got to reach your school, you got to travel in a minibus. Something is wrong with your people.
Something is very wrong, and something is very wrong in our society currently, folks, because a lot of people are becoming ill. Just take as a barometer myself, I'm feeling a bit under the weather, right? And I'm fully vaccinated. And I was preparing to go get my booster dose. I'm fully vaccinated. MP St. Louis feeling a little bit under the weather. MP Flubess is under the weather as well. Right? Under the weather. I don't think we have met since we had the last. We have met physically since we had the last sitting of Parliament
No.
in December. Right? So something, and if memory serves me right, MP Flubess lives at Mocha. MP St. Louis lives somewhere in Region 5 there.
Herstel Insurance.
Hurst telling, right? And I'm up on the East Coast. So if you take that as a snapshot, something is happening and these guys are not telling us. Frank never knew. The installed Minister of Health never know. Always got to be briefed, always got to address his mind to something, never know. Never can say definitively. It took them months to tell us we got the Delta variant here because Trinidad told us a passenger, an outbound passenger, took it to Trinidad. We still don't know definitively if we got Omicron here. We got to act as though we have it. And I guess we got to act as though we have the IHU as well. Never know. Right? And that is in every sector, that's how they operate, We're only talking about health and in particular COVID. Economically, Ashley no neither, Ashley no neither. Robeson and crime. It's crime and COVID killing we out here. Here no neither. What to do or where to go. Every sector. Vindia got one thing to do. She can't do that properly with social services. Right? Housing, they're fudging the numbers. We know that. Right? And it's the housing ministry that could be deemed as one of the chief super spreaders. I always got a big meeting someplace with hundreds of people. It's one of the chief agencies for the super spreaders. But as we've been saying, them guys in K. They're in K and they're in concern. Right? And then they want to come and say, we care. We care. The Dash 5 mask, somebody was showing us the package for teachers, the COVID care package. 5 masks, a sanitizer, and a bottle of vitamin C. Go down war with COVID. Go down war with Delta. Go down war with Omicron. Go down war with IHU. Right? 5 masks, a sanitizer, and a bottle of vitamin C. That's your protection. That is your protection. Right? So we don't only talk in the talk. We are there in the communities and we're feeling what the people in the communities are feeling. We just want to bash the government. We just want to have a country review. I play the whole Joe Hamilton speech so y'all can hear me in parsing what he said. The man is mad. Yeah. You're going to find 6 minutes to find some legal justification, people deading out. I can't put it any better. Dying out, deading out. Right? You want to find some legal justification, Article 6, Paragraph 3, Subsection 4, or why you must go to work and stand up in a COVID-infested class? But if it's not COVID, it's the mosquito infestation like we had at Hope Secondary, or is the bee infestation at Mock-Up Nursery School? And so MP Fulbest was right when she said the school system is not geared to be reopened. And you had a washroom issue and water issue at West Demerara's primary school just last week. These guys ready for prime time? Give us a break. MPs, as we look to program time.
Sherrod, I want to ask, and this is general because I know your audience is worldwide. What has this installed government done for the teachers who would have lost their loved ones, for the family of who would have lost teachers? What support mechanism? Because it looks like they're going along the way. You got to go to school, whether you're dead or not. They ain't care. What system is in place to help these families who have lost their family members who are teachers in school? How many of our students are dying COVID and we don't know the numbers? Something is definitely wrong. But let me tell you something. My mind tells me that Priya is not listening to anything what Frank says, albeit he has no clue what he's doing. I think she feels that way. Me and know we doing something, got to listen to him. And if I open the schools however long, I have vacation for spending the money.
What?
Because the money got spent, the money
Yep.
was procured, it got
Yep.
spent.
Yep.
And then when they come to public accountability, they tell you all sorts of nonsense. And one of the things you can hear is that we took care of the school was open, you know? So we have to think about it from all different angles because it's mind-boggling. It's not common sense for prayer anymore. If this thing is happening and it can happen to anybody, babies are dying, mothers in the hospital are going in COVID free and coming out COVID positive and dying as a result of COVID.
Well,
So they're not thinking about anything holistically.
Yep.
They want to force you to congregate in large numbers, which in itself is one practice for spreading COVID. Are we I don't know.
What I want them to do is to lead by example. I want the Minister of Education to take a photograph with herself and daughter off to school and say, I'm sending my child to school, and so should you. And Irfan Ali Catfish could lead in that regard as well. And everybody else who got nephews and nieces and children in the public school system. Take some photograph with your child and you. You sending them off to school in this environment on a daily basis. And say, I trust the school environment to send my child as a parent, not as a politician, as a parent. I trust that we've done enough. All right. First thing, some of them training even in the private school system, in the public school system. That's number one. Not even in the public school system. Right? But wherever they go, take us some photographs and post them. I trust the public. I would love to see the Minister of Education lead in this regard. I trust the public school system, and so I'm sending my child. And so should you.
And you have to find out why grade 7 students not going to school.
Leave our babies at home.
Yeah.
These guys in easy, you know. Go right ahead, MP Fulbess.
One of the things I want to say to everyone, we have a personal responsibility to protect ourselves and our families. In Guyana, we see the reality. We're having an administration that don't care about people. If you know you're not feeling well, don't go to school. Don't go in the work environment. Stay at home. Because you think about the money, and then you think about how many lives could be cost just by being that selfish. We have to take a personal responsibility. You're not feeling well, stay at home, take care of yourself, take care of your family. If you go into an environment, you recognize that, you know what, I feel that I've been exposed to Rona, then take the necessary steps to protect yourself. It's all the honesty that's going to help us, you know. Yeah. Because we recognize what's happening in terms of policy. Nothing is happening. And so we as a people have to be responsible and take care of ourselves and our family. Don't be swayed by what others are telling you. You make the decision as best for your child, best for your family. Make the decision as best for yourself. And you know that once you're doing that, you will help to protect someone else. We have to be our brother's keeper. And let us encourage each other to do the right thing and practice the basics. And I always encourage people, use a nice home cooked food, a nice bush tea. I'm a big fan of the bush tea and all the necessary fruits and vegetables that will help to build your immune system so we can together overcome this very challenging time. And thank you so much for having me, Sharon, and nice to have you with you, Natasha.
It has been my distinct privilege having both of you guys. MP Singh Lewis, as we wrap up.
Sharon, I want to join with Nima and say to our people, all of Guyana, that you have a responsibility to yourself as a person and to your family. Let us think about this situation realistically. We can do a couple of things. We can start with the home remedy, and it's not very expensive. Most of us got fever grass in the yard. We got a little bit honey, and we got ginger and so on. Let's do those things, because when you understand that people don't care about you, you have to care about yourself and your family.
Yep.
Take care of them first. And if we do that as individual families, then we are taking care of our communities. I also want to say to um, our leaders in our community, regardless of what your national leaders in government are doing, you have a responsibility. Your community would have elected you. You have a responsibility to take care of them. And don't let COVID-19 be another factor to divide us as a people. COVID didn't go to one ethnicity or one race.
Mm-hmm.
It's everybody,
Yep.
man, woman, and child. Everybody is affected. And our actions will determine what will happen to us. And Sharon, I want to thank you very much for having me once again on your podcast. It's always a pleasure. Um, I really enjoy being here. And Sherrod, I want to say a happy new year to you.
I heard that. Sure. That's how it's going to be for the new year, folks. We got to up it a little bit, a little sophistication. MP Zatasha Singh Lewis, MP Nimiflu Best, the Honorables. It's really a privilege having you guys time and again sharing on these myriad issues that beset our society. And I invited you guys again, not because you're members of parliament or have any prestige in our society, but as human beings, as mothers, as aunts, as people in the society in which we live, having to share your own experiences from your own unique vantage points. Thank you very much for being below the belt with us. Who vex lose?
Nima bye.
Bye bye.
All right, folks, time for our quote of the day. Today's quote, guys. Today's quote. Today's quote. We are, again, so privileged to have so many of you join us. And before we let you guys go, today's quote is taken from Henry II. Oh, Father. We go on far back. Henry II, guys. Henry II. Far, far back we go. Henry II. And he says here, even though you'll realize a little later on, the historian is telling us that this quote might not be attributed to him, but for our purposes right now, it's attributed to him. Will no one rid me of this turbulent priest? Will no one rid me of this turbulent priest? That's what it's probably said about the In the Ring show and the Below the Belt podcast. Will no one rid me of this turbulent priest? According to the citation here, folks listening to us around the world, in 1162, the King of England appointed his friend Thomas Becket as the Archbishop of Canterbury. He expected that Becket would allow him to avail himself to the church's money. But Becket took his new responsibility seriously, refusing to hand over the ecclesiastical funds, and thus provoked the king into making the above remark. On hearing the king's cry, 4 loyal knights immediately rode to Canterbury and stabbed the prelate to death before the altar of his cathedral in 1170. The broad sequence of events is verifiably accurate, but there is a problem with the quotation. Namely, there is no proof that Henry II ever said any such thing, according to the citation. It was probably a part of oral tradition for centuries, but the earliest written form of it appears in History of the Life of King Henry, History of the Life of King Henry II, which was published in 1769 by the British statesman George Littleton. A gap of almost 6 centuries between event and account is usually long, but similar difficulties recur frequently in the study of medieval history. The earliest records are written many years after the events they purport to describe. So the notation rather suggests that the quote might not be accurately attributed to Henry II. However, historians broadly attribute it to Henry II. Will no one rid me of this turbulent priest? So you put the man in for do one thing, but when he ain't doing your wishes, you won't get rid of him. That sounds familiar. Henry II, will no one rid me of this turbulent priest? And that is today's quote. That is today's quote. Folks, we're so privileged to have had each and every one of you with us today. Maureen Coppin Williams, Sandrine Baird, Carol Jacobs, Lynette Jacobs, all the Jacobs, the whole Jacobs clan out here. Maureen Coppin Williams, Marcel Daniels. It was our privilege, guys, having each and every one of you on our international podcast, Below the Belt. Wherever you joined us from around the world, guys, take the opportunity to share our live stream. And also, we want to see the emojis wherever you guys are joining us. So we want to know how you guys are feeling out there. It is our privilege having you guys day after day. Esson Duke, rather. Is it Esson Duke? Am I pronouncing it correctly? Candy Naline in the Jeet. We see you out there. We see you. Deborah Clark, Claire, Alexis, Charmley, Richmond. We see you as well. Folks, we can't do these programs without you. And that is why we ask that you guys come on board and partner with us on a monthly basis so that we can keep these programs going, keep you informed. Guys, you won't know how much it took out to me just today to summon the energy to come and do this podcast. But I didn't want to disappoint you guys. As I said, I'm a bit under the weather, but I am committed. I'm committed to getting the information to you guys. Why don't you come on board and partner with us? We have several platforms available, so you can contribute on a monthly basis to keep our programs going on Cash App with the dollar sign in the ring 592 on Cash App. It's the dollar sign in the ring 592 at PayPal. At PayPal, it's in the ring 592 at gmail.com. It's in the ring 592 at gmail.com. At the MMG, the local Cash App, our number there is 627-6963. The local MMG, the number there is 627-6963. MMG. And we're available via Western Union for those of you who don't like any of those platforms. We were available via MoneyGram as well. Available via Western Union and MoneyGram. Guys, you have any concerns? You have an information tip? You have a news tip? You have some photographs? You have some video you want to share with us? You have any concern and you need guidance? Our WhatsApp number is that very MMG number, 627-6963. 627-6963. Thanks for joining us. That's our time today, guys. Below the Belt. Who vex vex? Guys, we're going to get some rest and we're going to be back this evening, all things being equal, in the ring at 8. See you guys then. Stay safe wherever you are. Thanks for joining us. Below the Belt, guys. Thanks for joining our international podcast, Below the Belt. Who vex lose? Stay safe out there. Social distance, sanitize, wear your mask, practice all the COVID-19 protocols that are in place for your health and your safety, that of your friends, family, and loved ones. Stay safe.